yeah, and you're dealing with giants. You know, there was a giant I ran into. He called himself Benavi. He looked like an African person, and I came to find out he had not only some lizard DNA, but he had fish DNA. And he was one of the ones that interacted with the Dogon tribe in Africa, and he was like an 80-foot tall, you know, black guy basically.
Yeah, yeah, and then there's Dagon, the fish god, or Oannes, you know, the fish god who came and taught men this, you know, and was it a fish costume or was he, you know, what was really going on? But that fish, you know,
That's
motif.
the DNAs that the Anunnaki assimilated after a while. They started growing different traits. That's where you get octopi from. You get the long-headed. That's where you get octopus from. They actually stole DNA from another planet, combined it with their own DNA, and dumped it here.
So that's where you get the long skulls, the elongated skulls.
Long skulls. They few of them had. There are some good ones I've run into. Very few, but I've run into some good long skulls. Like we looked at a bit of history. I can't remember where we saw this show on. We were just compelled to look at this. It had to do with Stonehenge, and it had to do with a group of long skulls that were found around Stonehenge.
Yes.
But I thought for a moment that it was regular humans revolting against the Dark Anunnaki. That's what I thought at first. But I got this overwhelming, sad feeling from this, like they weren't the bad guys. And I looked at this, and I just there was this skeleton they were showing of this long skull that was laying in the dirt. This woman that was laying in the dirt. You could see there was an axe wound from a right-handed person on the back of her head. But I'm looking at this, and it was regular humans that killed him. And
they were.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, they were corralled up. They were killed 1,000 at a time.
Yeah, I noticed it was like how Nazis would kill like how they did the Jewish people, where was the pit of skeletons and everything. And then I found that it had to do with time travel, where some of the Nazis went back and started taking out some of these good rival long skull families that were against the beings they were aligned with, which were some of the dark Anunnaki. And I found it had to do with the temporal war. It also had to do with the Tartarian Empire as well.
Oh, good. You had to get that one in there too. And Christopher, archaeological evidence backs up what you just said, because Maria Wheatley has, and the archaeologists have found evidence of what you just described, as it was the human beings who eradicated these long skulls, and the truth is there may still be some left.
It also had to do with the revolt in Ireland against the Tuatha De Danann too. It was the same thing with the Irish. What we call the Irish now revolted against what was the King line, which was the Tuatha De Danann. I found it was the exact same thing.
Were they had long skulls? The Tuatha.
Some did. I noticed some did. Some just had more hair and had more of a glowing appearance to them. But some of them had this. Some of them looked like elves, like we know of as elves, where they didn't have the longest skull. They just had the pointed ears like Spock from Star Trek. You know, and I've noticed that a majority of the Tuatha are elven looking, but there are others that are slightly like this and just have a little more hair. It's a mix. It was a mix of. That's where you get some of the legends of High Brazil and all that from too.
Yeah, I mean, Christopher, you're just on fire right now. A big lesson that I learned when I went down to Peru to investigate the elongated skulls, and I was thinking, okay, human elongated skull, you know, it's one or the other, you know, or these two things. And then you get down there in the government museum and you're like, wait, we're dealing with 7 or 8 different types of humans and non-human mixtures.
Exactly. You know, and not all long skulls are evil. I mean, it's in this conception that all of them were dark. You know, I would crash out at some that would show up. You know, and there was one that showed. This one's also going to blow your mind. It blew our mind a bit, and it takes a lot to do this. But I was at our pool up at the clubhouse here, swimming. That's sometimes how I relax, and sometimes things come through as I'm doing that, or ideas come through, or something like that. And I had my phone with me. I had the recorder on my phone, and I was just starting to just daydream and drift. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at this long skull person in a robe, and I got spooked for a second. I was seeing in my head. I'm thinking, "Oh crap! Anunnaki, get away from me!" And he's like, "No, I'm not your enemy. I have a bit of history to tell you." And I said, "Well, what's your name?" and he was talking to me telepathically. He was there, but he was still, I could see him transparently, but he was talking to me telepathically. He said his name was Prefect Gratus, and that he was alive during the times of the Roman Empire, and he came to Earth 25,000 years ago, and was not only saw the witness of the slaughtering at Stonehenge from normal regular human to the long skulls that were there, which were members of his clan, but he was also in ancient Rome, and we found out he served under Tiberius. He took the form of a regular human. He was an advisor to Emperor Tiberius. We looked up the history later on. He said his name was Prefect Gratus, and we looked up Prefect Gratus on Google, and it said he served under Tiberius, exactly what he had said. I didn't know that part of the history. I didn't know him specifically. I knew about Tiberius, but I didn't know about him. And he started saying, yeah, he served under Tiberius as an advisor, like kind of like a court wizard or a court advisor or something like that Tiberius trusted. I looked it up, and that was, sure enough, that was dead on the mark.
Wow.
But history didn't depict him very well. They said he was a public official that also took bribes and all this other stuff. And I did ask him later. He goes, "Yeah, I wasn't perfect." Just
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, it's amazing. Just the reality of these things. It's just fascinating.
Yeah, it was. When he came to me, I wasn't expecting that at all, and I wasn't expecting to know that some there were good long skulls and bad ones. The bad ones were from a decrepit timeline, and the good ones were from our own. Were from here, and so there was. Even though they looked similar, you also have the Eben Zetas as well. That particular alien race from Zeta Reticuli. There's another form of gray, and I mistook them for the enemy as well because they have such similar looks, even though there's stark differences if you look carefully enough. People mistake them. They lump all the grays and stuff in one group, and there's multiple ones. There's good ones and bad ones.
Yeah. And, for whatever reason, for ill or for good or whatever, we see that there was a worldwide eradication of the elongated skulls by human beings, whether they were led by aliens or no matter what was going on. And the Nazca lines, the world famous Nazca lines that we all know about, and Von Daniken's talked about, everything like that. I went down there and personally saw them. And through this experience in Peru, I learned that, in my opinion, the Nazca lines should really be called the Paracas lines, because the Nazca people did not make the Nazca lines. The Nazca people killed the people that made the Nazca lines, which was the Paracas people. They chased the elongated skulls.
Yeah, and they're aligned with the long skulls. Exactly. Yeah, those were the just slightly before and during the Paracas were the intermix with the elongated skull people. And I came to find out there is actually a native human that actually is the long skull as well. They're descended from some of these other.
That doesn't surprise me at all. And Christopher, we hear about ancient instances in Europe and in the United States of giants that had red hair. Okay, well, I've got pictures I've taken myself. A lot of people don't understand. This is not like red hair like you might know several different people that have different types of red hair. This is a red hair like you've never seen before. I mean, and not only that, it's very dark. But they've got mummies, mumias, the Spanish word for mummies, that have long braids, and they have the red hair. And so absolutely, a lot of these elongated skulls had the red hair, but there's also skulls that look more human that also have that red hair that no humans have today. And then there's also something in between, because the elongated skulls people have a very robust jawbone. I mean, very robust. And so now there's this other one where they have a human-looking skull, which is, not elongated, but yet they have the robust jaw.
Yeah, exactly, because you have a lot of hybridization going on. You have Viking DNA in there. You have, which the Vikings did go down there. But at the time, I came to find out when the Vikings went down to Central America and Mexico and all those places, they were under the control of a reptilian that was posing as Odin at the time. And also there was some hybridized DNA between reptile and Viking as well. So also you have some long skull DNA that was put in there as well. I came to find out in someone else's session who lived in that area there was this. They said there was this strange doorway that had Viking runes on it that was near their location. They wanted me to remote you and look at that, and I found mixes of Viking giants that were there. I found some weird hybridized long skull Vikings that were cannibals. I located them, and they were nasty telepathically. I mean, they were just dark. And so you have them, and that backs up what a friend of ours said that went down there. They were chased out of the mountains by giant cannibals that lived in the mountains there up by above Machu Picchu. You have Machu Picchu, and there was one further up here. This came to me in a dream where I went up there and looked around and saw there was a giant with an elongated skull that would actually abduct people. His people would abduct people, and they would basically eat them. So,
No, was these the ones that tried to lure you up there?
These when I in the dream state, they what one of my guides did at the time was project my energy there to lure them out so that I could actually see what they were. And so as my guide at the time was trying to convince me not all giants were kind and benevolent and good. He was trying to warn me about that, and said, if you ever go here, just know that there's these telepathic giants here that like to abduct people, and basically they're cannibals. And he was showing me that they have a castle high in the mountains and all this other stuff. He said there's goodness there, but there's also evil there too. So you have to watch out for that. And he projected my energy there so that these giants would talk to me telepathically, not knowing that I wasn't there. He projected my light body there so that they would smell the energy. They could literally smell my energy and smell my blood, just like the whole fee fi fo fum thing. I smell the blood of an Englishman. It's that great.
Yeah. Yes. Peru's such a vast, different landscape, but when I was high up in the mountains and saw these other mountains, very arid and everything in the distance, and just you could see the giant caves. I mean, no one was out there. I mean, you could see them from the highway, but there wasn't people. It was not maybe just natural, caverns or whatever. But I somehow know the next time I go back to Peru, I'm just going to get off the road and I'm just going to walk over there. I mean, it could take half a day to get there. I mean, walking. And I'll just better be careful because you never know what's up there.
Oh yeah, there's also a Garthan tribes there as well that don't like humans snooping around in their domain as well. There's a couple different Garthan factions that live in the not the Alps, but the Andes. I had the name wrong there for a minute, but yeah, there's some Garthan tribes that live in the Andes. There's some gray groups there, Pleiadian groups that interact. There's all sorts of alien groups that interact in Peru, but the more dangerous ones are these giant hybrids that are there, and these reptilian Viking hybrids.
And they are physical?
They are physical beings, and they are huge. They're in excess of maybe 15, 20 feet.
Yeah, and they're faster than we are, stronger than we are, and
hands that are like this, so yeah, you don't want to mess with that. A friend of ours got chased out of there by big red-haired Viking-looking cannibal at one point.
Now, there is a story, it's kind of like a conspiracy theory on the internet that they claim is true and everything, that there's some of our special forces were in Afghanistan and ran across a giant, and the first group of them got eaten, and then they sent another, I guess, troop or whatever, these, special forces guys, and they had a firefight with this thing, and they actually killed it and then took it away in a helicopter. Have you ever heard about that story?
Oh, yes. I found out they were building a base around what they felt was like a portal or an ancient site. See, the government or the military likes to build bases around portals and ancient sites to be able to locate some of not only the sleeping giants that are down there, but other alien artifacts. And this one, yeah, I was mad when I found out they killed this giant, because I have like a kinship to some of these kinder giants that I've run across. And so when I found out they gunned down this giant, I'm like, no, that was like one of our brethren at one point. But if he was killing and eating them, they had to do that. But and then he wasn't one of the kind ones. But that makes sense. They like to try to find these sleeping giants. Not only do they want the DNA from them, so they can use that for like super soldiers and such. They do that with dog person DNA as well, but they do that with giant DNA as well to try to incorporate that so they have a stronger soldier. But they're wanting to imprison these beings when they find them. Some of them just leave. Some of them have high technology and they just leave. But that particular one, there was like this weird sadness I picked up from that when I saw the video, and our friend, his name's Viking, he looks like one of them too. You know, he's a huge person. You know, and him and I felt this like weird sadness when we watched that video of when they killed that red-haired giant. It was like this like aura of like despair around it, and we couldn't quite pinpoint it. But you know, he showed me that. He goes, "Have you seen this?" Showed me that thing, and I just felt this wave of sadness coming from that area in Afghanistan. It wasn't just one person; it was like from the area, and it was just this god awful depression like stench that came off of that area, because it was transmitting through the video. See, since it was about a certain location, people forget videos can transmit energy, and it connected to that spot, and I felt the sadness from that, and so did he.
So, were these giants protecting the portal?
I believe so. I believe they were put there as guards to protect the portal that was there, and the military were told to go in there and secure it. So of course they're going to secure it by whatever means they have.
Yeah, going guns blazing, I guess.
Yeah. So maybe I'm thinking they made up the story about that this giant tried to eat them, because that's a common fable about giants eating people, even though that's true in Peru. Doesn't necessarily mean it was true for Afghanistan. And I'm thinking they made up that portion because they had to justify it to people why they gunned down this Viking.
Absolutely, yeah. Like they've never lied before.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, lying is their language. So yeah, I found out they have in the Grand Canyon here in Arizona, they have a base there that's also guarding an old Mayan structure. Mayan city that is there. I found out there's a Mayan pyramid in the Grand Canyon, and other Mayan artifacts that they surrounded a base around. And there's a portal somewhere in the center there that they surrounded a base around, that the ancient Maya built their structures around. They did the same thing. They surrounded this. It was a ley line intersection that this portal is on. And I came to find out from some of the beings that occupy the Grand Canyon saying, yeah, your military's over there doing that. I went and found that out, and I've had many dreams and visions about this Mayan city that's there. It's like an oasis, or it was like an oasis back in the day. It was very pretty. It was like their version of Atlantis almost.
Yeah. When you talk about something that's absolutely real, not in the astral or anything, but you're talking about these bases and stuff like this. When I was in Lubbock, Texas, and I was doing some things out in the country. I really don't, I kind of used to be an outlaw. I think you know that. So I was doing some kind of bad stuff solo on my own out in the country. And I came across a regular construction site with trucks that would, earth-moving vehicles. And they had made a grade, it almost looked like a runway, kind of going down into the ground. So it's a long deal where they could take the trucks or whatever. And then I came up into a hole bigger than this whole townhome that I'm in right now. And then as I got closer, and the dirt was real loose, as I got closer and closer to the hole, I could see that inside the hole there was a metal lip all the way around there. Just, once again, regular human stuff. In other words, it looked like it's a form that they could pour concrete in or something like this. And I realized that between that was kind of what was holding the walls of this thing open, but yet there was gaps in it to where I could fall down between the hole and the lip and easily fall to my death. I couldn't see down in there. I was so curious. I got a rock, pretty big rock, and I threw it out in the middle of this thing, and I waited to. I never heard it hit.
You never heard it hit the bottom. That means that was a pretty deep pit. Then if you never heard it hit the bottom. It
hit me with there was a bit of fear involved. I mean, obviously there's humans involved with this, but there's humans that know things that your average person doesn't know, obviously.
Oh yeah. These military units have forms of technology that that there's a lot of people are wanting release, like the medical technology, for instance. The aliens didn't just show them time travel and other like nuclear power was another one that the Dark Anunnaki gave our government. That's how we got the formulas for the nuclear isotope to begin with. It was aliens. But there is also medical technology that can regenerate limbs. I've seen regenerate spinal columns to cure paralysis, quadriplegic and paraplegic. There's all sorts of serums and different medicines that have been collected from other planets that have other different plant types and everything, that we have cures for different stuff. I came to find out that some of these corporations have been releasing some of this stuff onto our shelves slowly, but they want to keep the corporation structure intact, or the financial structure intact. So you got a bunch of competition going on between them. That's why you don't see free energy being released, is because there's a part of the military industrial complex that's actually benevolent, that doesn't want to see that competing over 0 point energy. They want to see it free to the people. So they're waiting for these corporations to completely collapse, and then they'll go, here, someone will.
Absolutely right. I mean, as much as we despise the system, if it went away tonight at midnight, there would be hell to pay in some different parts of the world. People just think you can just make that stuff go away and everything's just going to be, love, light, and peace, and that's just not the truth.
No. I saw what it would look like if that happened. I've shown a timeline where they show me a hypothetical situation if that took place, and it was complete chaos. So what they did, here's another bit of information people don't really know. If you go into, like, say, a bank, for instance, and some of their card readers aren't working, or if you go into a Walmart or something and some of their computers are screwed up for a short time, it has to do with the money, like your card or chip or something like that, or the banking system specifically. I found out that's the good guy ETs out there trying to root out some of the dark artificial intelligence that's in there, and they're blocking out blocks of the technology to try to hunt down this AI. And they showed me there was a plan B, that they were going to try to knock down the tower networks to try to kill the AI and then boot it back up again. Like, it was going to take a couple of weeks, mind you, but they were going to try that. That was plan B. But they're trying to avoid that. They're trying to make this as seamless as possible, trying to get rid of all this dark crap in the background where people don't see it.
Chris, this really literally has to be one of our best episodes, because I'm going to give you two things that could back up exactly what you're saying right there. And one of them is a life experience that I had that you already know about, when I was lured to Denver, Colorado, and then everything. And then they tried to make me watch the movie. And, that these intelligences and stuff can go through the airwaves, and they don't have to make a special little movie to put mind control in it. They can just kind of zap it as it's going. And then what I was saying I wanted to read to you earlier, because this has to do with the forces of electricity and electromagnetism and everything. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this, but it's really, you just did. I mean, you almost did a spoiler, because it was exactly what you said, and the AI, because Steiner predicted the AI. I mean, I'm not saying he's the only one. Let me read this. It's like about 2 pages. Let me read, and this is Rudolf Steiner. Okay. Because I want to get your thoughts on this. Okay, yeah. I'll see. He's talking about these beings that he says are in every human being, and they come in with us right before we're born. And he calls them a doppelganger. And this is what Steiner says about this. These beings of high intelligence, but of purely Mephistophelian intelligence, and who possess a will that is closer to nature than what can be said of the human will, decided at a certain point out of their own volition that they did not want to live in the world to which they had been assigned by the wisdom-filled gods of the upper hierarchy. They wanted to conquer the earth, for which purpose they require bodies, as they do not have bodies of their own. They therefore use as much of the human body as they can, as the human soul is not able to fill the human body completely. Because of the way the human body develops, these beings are thus able to enter into the human body in a certain way at a particular time before the human being is born, and then accompany us below the threshold of consciousness. There's only one thing in human life that they absolutely cannot endure. They cannot endure death. They must therefore always leave the human body in which they establish themselves before it succumbs to death. Time and again, this is a very bitter disappointment for them, as what they seek to appropriate for themselves is precisely the ability to remain in human bodies after death. That would constitute a great accomplishment in the realm of these beings, an accomplishment that they have not achieved yet.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, that actually makes 100% sense, because we were just told by getting a download of information that, you know, we were trying to quantify how much of the soul people are accessing and how much of their ancient information they're accessing, and it's only a small part of the information. The more junk that you get out of your genetic memory, and the more of that junk energy that you transmute, the more of that fills the vessel. See, so that actually is true. There's a space there that these dark entities try to move into. So that is actually 100% true. And yes, they are trying to enter a more human form. I caught some aliens one time when I was remote viewing, trying to basically 3D print human bodies over their decrepit, some of their decrepit forms, and they were trying to reintegrate themselves into the human genome. What happened was I found out there's what's known as a second generation Orion, which is another long skull, but they have like the Akhenaten look, where it's a weird hips, like in ancient times. Mm-hmm. And I found out that by entering their greater consciousness into the human body, they got locked into our evolutionary cycle, or the trap concept that they created. They got locked into it. Also, this goes with what we were told about a lot of the beings from a long time ago, like Michael, for instance, and all of these other real forms that are out there. They created this illusion game a long time ago. And this was depicted in some fictional books and some other channeling books as well. They got integrated into their own creation. You know, they let the AI in. They figured, okay, we'll learn from this and evolve from this, but the AI ensnared them. They got trapped in their own creations after a while. So this actually makes sense for what you're saying. They got literally trapped into the concept of time. You have an artificial intelligence that what happened was it in a different universe. This was a completely parallel universe to our own in this same solar system. Earth and Maldek, we have Maldek in this solar system, but in that time continuum, that's where Nibiru came from. And you have beings that just completely got enthralled with technology. Life source energy was not available to them anymore. They wanted to keep living on. Their survival instinct kicked in. They went into a conquering phase, broke through all the parallel universes, and conquered different planets once they broke into our universe, which was around Orion. That's where you get the Orion Wars from. And the whole Nibiru mythology, that's where you get that from. And then that's when they again systematically started invading solar systems. Because of that, they got that conquering mindset. So that's actually true what you just said.
Wow, that is so overwhelming, Christopher. Now this idea just popped into my head. We had been talking about maybe having some special content for some people on different platforms and stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think about this idea? Because we've already been going an hour, and I don't know how much time you have to spend with me today, and I'm hoping at least another half an hour, but let's take like a quick 5-minute break, and then when we come back, let's see, I don't know, maybe, you know, there's been on some of the shows before you've started accessing direct knowledge. Now, I don't know what topic we would talk about, but I think something will certainly present itself. And then the people can see when you're somehow really in real time, you know. And I know you're always in real time getting the information, but there, you know. How do you like that idea?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I know you were talking about Patreon. Even though we have a Patreon as well. Yeah, I'm not opposed to actually doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so let's. I'll just set my watch here and let's just take 5 minutes to get some refreshments and stuff. Let's leave the phone call open.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, okay, I'll be right back.
All right.